Hello everyone, and welcome to my MAGBLADE PvP build for the SCALEBREAKER update. To begin, we are using the Crafty Elfique Inferno Staff for our first 5-piece set. This is going to be with the shock damage enchant to give him that vulnerability, and the Nirnhoned trait to give us more damage. What this armor set does essentially is just give us a bunch of max Magicka. Back bar, we are using the Maelstrom Restoration Staff trait, defending, and for your enchant you could either use Absorb Magicka or the damage enchant. Our monster set is Lord Warden. This will give us our tankiness, but only issue with this monster set is that you are confined to a circle when it procs. But the circle is fairly large, so you can stay inside of it. Both these pieces, of course, are Magicka enchant with Impen. Either one heavy, one light, or two heavy would be best. Another monster set you could swap it out for is Bloodspawn, of course, but if you're going to use Bloodspawn, I recommend using the Black Rose Restoration Staff instead. Moving on to our next 5-piece set is Hissap. Hissap's going to give us health, Magicka, spell damage, and healing every time we are snared, immobilized, or hit with a disabling effect. Next is the Crafty Elfique Jewelry. Only one of them is going to have spell damage for the enchant. The rest of them are going to have magic recovery. All three are arcane, of course. Moving on to our consumables, we are using Longfin Pasty with melon sauce. This is a really great tri-stat food for this build. Helps beef up those stats. For our potion, we are using Essence of Spell Power. This is going to give us Sorcery, Prophecy, and Intellect, which increase our spell damage, crit, and Magicka recovery, and this also restores Magicka to us. Moving on to our skills, on our front bar, we are using Merciless Resolve. This will just be a huge piece of burst in this build. Really high damage you get from this. Next is Soul Splitting Trap. This is just a dot that we'll apply to our enemies to help us work them down quicker. You can use Degeneration, sorry. Instead, only thing you'd have to do is use Spell Crit Pots only, because you get the major sorcery from the skill. For our next skill is Mass Hysteria. This is just going to be a huge AoE stun. Very important for this build, especially when in outnumbered situations. For our main spammable skill is Swallow Soul. This is going to be a very good damage skill and a moderate healing skill. Not the best, not the worst, but it's pretty nice to have. Next is Debilitate. This is a pretty big dot. And it also gives you 600 Magicka recovery while it's on somebody. While doing so, it also gives you a huge snare on the enemy for 4 seconds. Next is our ultimate, Soul Harvest. This is another really good burst skill. Increases your damage on the enemy by 20% for 6 seconds, gives them Major Defile, reducing their healing received for 30%, by 30% rather. And while slotted, if you kill an enemy on this bar, of course, you'll get 10 ultimate. Next is Mirage. This will give us Major Evasion, Minor Resolve, Minor Ward. This is a pretty good tanky ability for this build. Now, I do know I could probably use the other morph that removes snares, but what's the purpose of running Hissap if you're going to remove snares? Next skill is Siphoning Attacks. This is going to give us Magicka recovery, of course. Everyone knows what the skill does. For our next skill is Harness Magicka. This will restore Magicka to us, and it is a pretty potent damage shield. And like I said before, if you're going to use the Black Rose Resto Staff, swap it out with Healing Ward. That's all you got to do. Next is Rapid Regeneration. This is a really powerful burst heal for this build, and is very vital to your combat. Next is Dark Cloak. This is another very vital skill to your fight. Minor protection, very important, and a little bit of a heal. One thing that makes a skill very important is that it gives you major ward and major resolve for the duration, as it says. Next is Panacea. I of course don't have this morph, but you want to morph it to the one that gives you the critical damage done. If you don't have this skill, use Soul Siphon. It's still pretty good, just has a cast time like Panacea doesn't, but either or works. Now moving on to our character sheet, I will show you guys the stats fully buffed without the monster set and continuous, or the benefit of any scrolls. So this is what our stats are on the front bar. Fairly nice. Let's buff back up again real quick. Fairly nice. That's this is of course with Blood Spawn on. Let me throw Lord Warden on. With Lord Warden on. And this is our stats. As you can see, higher Magicka recovery because we have the light armor piece, and more resistances since the armor set itself gives us a buff in damage. Resistance, that is. Next is champion points. Warlord 56, Siphoner 9, 19 Tenacity, 75 Arcanist, 27 Mooncalf, 23 Shadow Ward, 61 Tumbling, 56 Elfborn, 64 Elemental Expert, 62 Spell Erosion, 7 Staff Expert, 81 Master at Arms, 61 Ironclad, 50 Resistant, 26 Light Armor Focus, 43 Hardy, 43 Elemental Defender, 47 Thick-Skinned, and that's it for the champion points. And one last thing, we are a Breton on this build, and we are using the Mage Mundus. Anyway, those of you that watched, thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this, and we'll see you all next time.